I first saw the Rowena Plateau when I was 23, 24 years old, 1969, 1970, and I fell in love with it. And I thought to myself, oh gosh, is this preserved? Right. But I wondered about the ownership, and I checked into the ownership, and some of it was Mayor State Park, but then you got out onto the plateau, and it was private. And so I said, oh gosh, I never want to see a store here or a bunch of houses. It should stay just the way it is. I first got in touch with a Board of Trustee member from Reed College because we were kind of invited to get in touch with the trustees if we had a common interest, and it turned out John Gray of Omark Industries said he was very interested in conservation in this little booklet. So I got my courage up and actually got in touch with him and said, there's this property out there that really needs preserving. How do I do it? And he in turn gave me the contacts for the head of state parks and also Nature Conservancy, which I had never heard of, because Nature Conservancy at the time was a tiny little organization that had just kind of moved into the Portland area. I got in touch with both, but it was Nature Conservancy that sounded interested, and the owners weren't interested in selling. Maybe in about 1977 or something, I said, well, heck, I'm going to get in touch with the owner. And I did. And I wound up being able to buy it, it being 34 acres on the Rowena Plateau, including the first pond and half of the lower bench that you look at from the viewpoint. I bought that essentially for $5,000 and was able to sell it to Nature Conservancy next day for what I paid, because as soon as it looked to me like I could get it, I got in touch with them again.
So when you think about someone who has devoted over 4 decades of their life to protecting this part of the gorge and really doing it in a hands-on way, what you find is someone like Barbara has had influence far beyond what most people know. She has been a force on so many fronts. Her work with Nancy Russell to buy properties in the Eastern Gorge to protect them. Barbara was the eyes and ears for Nancy. When she saw a for sale sign, she'd call Nancy and they'd both go out there together. And there are a number of properties from areas around the Memaloose Hills and 7 Mile Hill that are now Forest Service lands, from our Dancing Rock Preserve in Klickitat County. Barbara had an outsized influence in making sure those lands got protected, and we all owe her a debt of gratitude for the work she did to continue to impress.
And it doesn't like the deeper soil so much. It likes to have the shallow soil. And it's in bud right now. It's going to be blooming, in about a week or two. And then this right here is... What actually happened was I had been focusing on the Oregon side for years, in the Tom McCall Preserve, and then with Nancy and the Cherry Orchard Trail, that's really the first thing that got me over to the Washington side. I had never been up the Klickitat until this opportunity to participate in a paid plant survey for the Forest Service, because it was Wild and Scenic River came along. And I was in seventh heaven. They were paying me to do something I had always wanted to do, and it was wonderful. You know, it was a great experience. So it was that plant survey that first showed me the Klickitat River. I never had seen it before then. Never had gone up it. But that happened, and I thought to myself, wow, this would make a great trail. But at the time, the railroad was still running, so that was pie in the sky. And then it wasn't until 2002, after owners were barbed wiring it and saying no trespassing on it, a young man got arrested by Klickitat County, or cited, for trespassing on the trail, which was state parks land. And that's what really started a lot of us thinking this has gone too far. And I was just one of several. And then a group of us went up to a state parks meeting in Olympia and said, look, you know, a lot of us are for this trail. You shouldn't close it. And so the issue came up of how much money it would cost to do the trail for a while. And we wound up offering $5,000 if they'd do it. Well, we weren't any official organization at the time. We just offered it. And so we had to quickly get together as an organization to raise the money and you know, get the trail going.
I met Barbara about 8 years ago when I was new to the gorge and I was taking a master naturalist course. Barbara was teaching an all-day field trip up the Klickitat River Valley on oak woodland habitat, and I was enraptured by her knowledge of the area and wildflowers, but most of all, her passion for the area and its beauty and preserving this area. We collected balsamroot seeds and did some seeding up on Catherine Creek. And through that, I got to know Barbara and I became aware of the Klickitat Trail Conservancy. And that was an ideal way for me to work in something I enjoyed and wanted to give time to, and got to work with Barbara. About a year and a half ago, took over the position as president. So we're dedicated to Barbara for being on the very forefront of the fight for the Klickitat Trail. And it's going to be my responsibility, and I'm going to commit to Barbara to work to preserve and to bring forward what she's valiantly fought for and gained for us.
And that's a do not dump trash sign above it. With all the trash down below, of course. We'll add it to our improvised trash bag here.
What is your vision for the future of the Klickitat Trail?
Well, one of the things we really want, right now the trail is being used quite a bit, and we like to see that. It's being used by hikers, cyclists, horseback riders, and that's what it's supposed to be for. But right now there's a disjunct in the trail, a disconnection, and that is a trestle got removed after the flood of '96. State Parks took it out near just north of the town of Klickitat. And we do have a grant to put that back in, but as long as that trestle is gone, people, when they get to Klickitat, don't have a trail anymore. So what we want is, what my vision for the trail is to make it continuous, to get rid of this disjunct. We have the grant for it. We got the grant back in 2017. It has been very, very slow to happen. The whole trail is beautiful for wildflowers. In where you have wet slopes coming down to the trail, which is especially that 11 mile, you've got camas, and you've got hyacinth brodia, which are, and mimulus, which is monkey flower. Those all love wet slopes. So the monkey flower is yellow, and the hyacinth brodia is white, and the camas is blue, and you just get, and more than that too, you get some really nice color combinations. This is skeleton weed. A lot of root on it. It's a very noxious weed that's sort of taking over this area.
The funny thing is, I met Barbara before I even started here in 2023. I started February of 2023, and I already had an email in my inbox in January from Barbara letting me know that she had planted Lomatium suxdorfii, which is an endemic species to the gorge, in this certain place that I had no idea where it was yet, because I was so new. I think I related to her being a grandparent, and we're basically all her children. And so she has that knowledge, that historical reference that goes back a long ways, and so she's able to tie in all these pieces and all these people. And so you can just look across the landscape if you know where to look and see her legacy.
How long have you been a part of the Columbia Discovery Center?
I've been involved with the grounds there a month before they opened, which was, I think, May of 1997. And what happened was The grounds were important. They were supposed to be a display of the native plants of the gorge. And the right plants were planted, but nobody considered weed control. One of the Forest Service people asked me to go out and see if I'd work on just a little bit, maybe. And I got out there and I just went, oh dear, this is not good at all, because they had an irrigation system which you shouldn't be using irrigation if you want plants that are native to the East Gorge. And so they had every weed that grows in Portland, basically, doing beautifully. They had white sweet clover that tall, all over the ground. Anyway, foolishly, I at that point got involved and started weeding and tried to bring out other people to do it. If it hadn't been for AmeriCorps and these kids coming out and pulling weeds and throwing them into huge dumpsters, I would be in a hospital with a broken back and the Discovery Center would be a disaster. So it was really AmeriCorps that gave me the crews and the ability to do that. These are the seeds. That's what the seeds look like. And now they're little worms that can get in and eat those seeds, so they can look nice and be bad. So if I pinch a seed like that one and it's hard, that's good seed. Pinch this one, that's hard. Good. I'm liking this. These are these so far. Oh, see this one collapsed when I pinched it? See that? Bad seed, eaten out.
As someone who currently teaches, I'd love to know more about the Master Naturalist program and how you inspire others to teach about the Columbia Gorge.
Oh, thank you. The Master Naturalist program was started by Oregon State University Extension Program, and actually they are in various locations, I think at Klamath Falls maybe, in Willamette Valley. But about 7 years ago, Ann Harris, who worked with the Extension Service, got together a very good crew of teachers. And I teach a little bit in the intro session, where I go out with some Native Americans and we show them plants on the grounds and tell them about Native American uses and about Western knowledge about those plants too. It's a wonderful combination.
Can you tell me how you feel when your students start to light up when you teach them about the wildflowers and the plants in the gorge?
Oh, I love that. It's a wonderful thing. And I see the results of what people did, like at the Discovery Center. I had a group of kids out from one of the local schools planting balsamroot seed. And they were planting it by the big sign for the Discovery Center. And I said to them, if you drive by here years later and you see balsam roots, you see yellow flowers there, you'll know you did it. Well, now you see balsam roots there. And I like to think that those students may drive by and say, yes, I planted those. See, it's white? Mm-hmm. Okay, but now look at the ones lower down on these. See, they've turned purple, those banners where it was white up above. Mm-hmm. That means it's been pollinated. That's a signal to the bees and the other pollinators that, hey, I've been pollinated, go to the upper ones. One of the great joys in my life is to go out at Catherine Creek or at Memaloose, and it being public land now, because that wouldn't have happened without the Gorge Bill. So my desire is to, where you have good land, where you have wildflowers left or beautiful views or geologic features, to make as much of that public land or accessible to the public as possible. And individuals are so important in that. Young people are so important in that. As I say, I was 23 when I first saw the Rowena Plateau and said, oh my gosh, this needs to be preserved. And 32 when I did something about it. One time Nancy said to me, she said, Barbara, nobody knows what you did. You've got to tell people about it, because otherwise, for parks and places like this, people think the fairies did. So for Nancy's sake, a lot of times now I will tell people, Yes, I bought that because young people need to know they can do it too. If I could do it, if I could fall in love with a place when I was 23, and it was just luck in a lot of ways. You can try, and like for a few years we tried and nothing happened. Sometimes it doesn't work, but you need to try. And you, as a younger person, need to know that it's on you, that you can do it, that it's your efforts that will do it. It's not somebody else's efforts that are going to preserve it.
So for Lifetime Achievement, we had 6 very worthy nominees this year. For me personally, it was very, very clear. Looked at a lifetime of volunteerism. And then Barbara Robinson was nominated by Ken Hansen, and he asked if he could do the introduction.
Barbara has been a founding member of the Klickitat Trail Conservancy as vice president and as president, from whom I took over 2 years ago, and only on the condition that she stay in an emeritus type position. But her career in education and law and conservation began back in the 70s and 80s when she was an educator at the university level in Portland. And at that time, she discovered the Columbia River Gorge. And if you may remember, that was before the Gorge Protection Act went in. And she was a true convert of the gorge and worked tirelessly for many years acquiring property. She was instrumental in acquiring property at Tom McCall Point, at Coyote Wall, at Catherine Creek. And if you know the Columbia River Gorge, these are iconic spots in the eastern Columbia River Gorge for hiking and recreation. And it is only because of her efforts and working with people like her that I am proud to be a part of this agency, or this group, and carry on the work that Barbara's done. So in closing, these are the words of Kevin Gorman, who is the current executive director of the Friends of the Gorge. Walk, bike, or drive almost anywhere in the eastern Columbia River Gorge, and you will witness the power of Barbara Robinson in the special places she has protected, preserved, or stewarded over the last half-century. Her power has come from her passion, diligence, and intellect. Her unrelenting commitment to keeping the Columbia Gorge thriving and beautiful has inspired elected officials, public agency leaders, and nonprofit staff to care more, work harder, and follow her lead. When I think of the many of the accomplishments I am most proud of in my 26 years leading Friends of the Columbia Gorge, most of them came with Barbara's enthusiastic encouraging me along. I can't imagine a Columbia Gorge without her. So Barbara, congratulations and thank you for a career well earned.